Actor Tim Allen has finished reading the entire Bible, a process that he said has left him feeling humbled. He put out a tweet, also known as a message, I guess, on X now that the platform has changed its name. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Finish the entire Bible. It's been a 13-month, word by word, page by page, no skimming journey. Humbled, enlightened, and amazed at what I read and what I learned, I will rest and meditate it on so much. I will begin it again." Now, I'm here with Raj Nair, but Raj, I got to tell you, this was interesting to me because he made it a point to say it's been 13 months, word by word, page by page. He did not skim, he did not cheat. And I love that he said at the end of this journey, and he's been talking about this now for a couple of, actually for about a year. It was last June that he revealed that he was going into the New Testament, that he had finished the Old Testament. And the fact that he's humbled and enlightened and amazed, and he's sharing that with the world as an A-list actor who people love and respect, I think is pretty amazing.
Definitely amazing. And this is my encouragement to you if you're watching this. If you take nothing out of what I'm about to say, I pray that you would be encouraged to do this, which is to fall in love with Scripture. I pray that you would have a renewed joy for Scripture. And one of the things that breaks my heart, like there's places in the Holy Land, for example, where you can just buy a New Testament. That's actually quite a common thing in the Middle East, and I'm like, oh man, you're missing so much of the good stuff. Like, if you don't understand the Old Testament, you don't really understand the New Testament. And if Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, if Jesus is God, then the God of the Old Testament, same. And so when I started to really fall in love with the Old Testament is when I started to fall in love with Yeshua more. When you start getting into Ezekiel and Isaiah and Jeremiah and Deuteronomy and even the smaller books like Zechariah, and then you start to see this prophecy thing that's happening, and you start to see the here's the way I've always thought it makes the most sense. Reading scripture is like looking at a tapestry, but from the back, because you'll read these things in Judges and in Ruth, and you're like, what's going on here? But I feel like if you really let God minister to your heart through all of Scripture, every once in a while, He'll flip to the other side of the tapestry, and you see the plan, you see the story, you see the brilliance and the beauty of it all, and then it goes back, right? Um, so I am just really encouraged by Tim, and if this could be a sign to you, my friend, watching this, that to our faith, there is so much more than just the Gospels. The Gospels are the tip of the iceberg, but get into all of Scripture and don't be afraid of the stuff in Leviticus and I don't know, Joshua, because it is kind of weird in some points. But like, if you don't see what God's doing, you're missing this beautiful picture. One verse that just kind of I've thought has been really interesting and really cool. But it's a verse that, if you just were just to stick in the Gospels and maybe dabble in Psalms and Proverbs, you totally miss this beautiful story. It's talking about God kind of at the end of the days, when dealing with Israel. He says, "And I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication." And here it is: "They will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as one who mourns for an only child." It's like when you start to see the prophetic, and you start to see the end from the beginning, and you start to see God's plan for the Jewish people, and obviously the church and the Gentiles, and the gathering, and the ruins being rebuilt, and bringing back the people from all corners of the world, and you start to see that there's this thing that God's doing. It's like, whoa. Sorry, I get excited about this. But if you only cherry pick verses on a devotional, or if you're only comfortable kind of going into Proverbs because the rest of the Old Testament is weird, or if you totally shy away from Revelation because it's like, yikes. My encouragement to you is to have a renewed joy for Scripture. Our God is not scared of your questions. Our God is not scared of your, what does that mean? That's the whole point. To wrestle with God, Israel, to wrestle with God. And so I think it's actually quite biblical to wrestle with God in Scripture and to get alone with Him and just fall in love with all 66 books written by over, basically 40 authors and three continents or three languages. And it's this tapestry that God has has woven is just so immaculate and so beautiful and so incredible, that Tim the Tool Man, Buzz Lightyear, I'm so thrilled for you, my friend. And my encouragement is to keep pressing in, because you're not saved by Scripture, but man, this love note that God gave us is just incredible. And to me, my again, to repeat for the third time, my encouragement to you, if you're watching this, is to allow God to give you a renewed joy for Scripture. But I'll toss it back to you, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, I love that he said he will rest and meditate on so much that that's going to be an ongoing process and that he will begin it again. You know, I'm reading the Bible right now myself for the third time all the way through, right? So I'm doing the Bible in a year for a third time. And I've read the Bible my whole life, but I had never really sat down and said, I'm going to read the whole thing this year. And so being the third time, I'm learning totally new things that I never thought about before. I have a friend who's doing it too. A couple of years, my wife and I did it together. Now this friend, we're bouncing ideas off of each other that, you know, things I hadn't thought of, as we kind of read through, and it's pretty amazing. And so, you know, you want to make sure you don't just do it once, that it's a process. It's part of our life. I want to, you know, read it 50 times. I hope I live long enough to read it, you know, 60 more times. I don't know. But I also want to just share, you know, 2 Timothy 3:16-17. All scripture is God breathed and useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. You want to be equipped for every good work that God has for you. Start reading the Bible. And like Raj said, ask God for an appreciation for it. Sometimes we have a hard time doing things because we feel like it's going to be boring or difficult or it's going to take time. Sometimes we just got to be like, God, give me that passion for that thing, because He wants us to read it. Just like I read in Scripture just now, it's what will correct us, rebuke us, and train us up. And there's nothing more important than that.